Hello, friends. As you know, that we are exploring the neighborhood of our solar system, and we also know that most of the stars, nearly 70% of the stars that exist in our universe, are red dwarf. So there are many red dwarf around our solar system, and we are actually going to discuss one more candidate which is in the neighborhood and is also a red dwarf. So let's find out what is this red dwarf called. And this is called Ross 248. And to examine Ross 248 up close, let's get into our imaginary spaceship and let's get around the orbit of Ross 248 to examine it up close. So as you can see here, we are in the orbit, and this is a live feed, and Ross 248 is moving around, uh, gently. And so, what is so special in this star system? I think the first off is it's a very low power, dim red dwarf. It is so dim that it cannot be seen by until unless you actually have a very special high power telescope. So it is a very dim star, very hard to look at, and because of that, and it's a red dwarf, so it will have all the standard features of red dwarf. But until and unless you actually look at it using a powerful telescope, it will not be visible. You suppose look up in the sky and you know that it is there, but you can't see it. You have to bring specialized equipment to look at Ross 248. Well, in terms of its distance, it's about 10.3 light years away from Earth, and slightly away. There are many stars nearby, and this is also a nearby star because it's like quite close by in the neighborhood. But in spite of being close by, it is so far off that even light takes 10 years to reach Earth. So this is something which is very unique about this star. And when it comes to its mass and the size, and how much energy it has in it, it is only 12% of the mass of the sun. So you can imagine it's a relatively small star, shining with red glow, and it's a red dwarf, so it's a small star. And in terms of material, it has only 12% of the mass of the sun. So it's fairly very small star in the neighborhood. Well, as things are being juggled around, even our sun is moving in particular direction, and so all the stars in the neighborhood, in fact, all the stars in the galaxy are moving around. So, because of this movement, in next 80,000 years, Ross 248 is predicted to be the nearest star to the sun. So it is moving in a direction which will bring it much closer to sun and earth, but in next 80,000 years. So if humanity is around, they will be able to have a closer look on this star, because it will be closest to earth at that point in time. Well, so far, no planets have been discovered around Ross 248. First of all, it's very difficult to determine if there are planets, especially when they are far off around a red dwarf, because currently the red dwarf emits very little light, and to examine using usual methods, if there are any planets around and if there is something else going on, um, it's very tough, it's very difficult, because it does not reveal, and these stars are very low power. So even if though there are planets, so far we have not been able to see a single planet around Ross 248. I'm sure there may be some planets there, but we would need more advanced techniques to see. Maybe James Webb, when it wakes up and becomes operational, James Webb telescope will be able to see the system much closely, and they will be able to identify if there are planets in the infrared spectrum. As you know, James Webb is looking into the infrared, and this star is emitting that infrared light. Well, just like any other red dwarf star, which are also known as flare stars. Why flare stars? Because once in a while, red dwarf emits huge amount of energy. The flare itself, unlike the solar uh, storms that we experience on Earth, these are fairly predictable. But in terms of red dwarf flares, they are very energetic and they are many times stronger than the total output of the star. And we don't know why this happens around red dwarf stars. And suddenly they start shining 20 times brighter, but this flare lasts only for few minutes, like 10 minutes and so on. So in case of uh, Ross 248, there is no exception. It is a red dwarf star. It emits strong flare. However, so far what we have seen is it is a variable star, but it has a set frequency. Every 4.2 years, it emits the flare. If you look at other red dwarf stars in the neighborhood, we cannot predict when they are going to emit the flare. It could be every 10 minutes, or it could be after a year, but there is no set frequency. But the surprising fact around Ross 248 is that it has a frequency of flaring up. And that is why, even though it's a very less energetic star, a very small star, but it has a frequency. So if there is a frequency, there must be something which is generating these flares, and there could be an explanation around it. So more research is required and identify why Ross 248 has a set frequency of emission, whereas all other red dwarfs in the neighborhood that we've examined so far does not. So what is so peculiar about this star system that we need to identify? So friends, this is something which this is simple red dwarf star, and I thought I'll talk about this in the multiverse section of our channel. And if you know something more than what I have told you, something special, do not hesitate to send in your comments and get engaged with us. We will probably read out your messages in the next edition of Multiverse. As always, thanks for watching, and I will catch you again in the next one.